Hey besties, welcome back. Today we are talking about Quiet on Set, exposing Nickelodeon, Dan Schneider, Brian Peck, everyone else involved, I guess. I haven't watched anything from it yet, so I don't know who they're exposing yet, but this documentary in itself is a distraction right now. Like, I need people to realize that. Like, we're gonna watch it because I've been talking about this forever, so I'm glad that people finally see that I'm not crazy. Like, I didn't just like wake up one day and start pointing fingers at Nickelodeon. Like, and I even told people, like, I've auditioned for these shows. Like, I went and like my mom pulled me out immediately. At one audition we went to, I thought I was going to be the next Disney Nickelodeon star. You cannot tell me any different. I don't remember which audition it was though, but my mom snatched me so fast. So fast. We did something else for Nickelodeon and I did a peanut butter commercial thing. It was just, as a child, I was so upset with my mom because I was like, why would you pull me out? Like, this is not fair. Like, you hate me. You don't want me to like thrive. You don't want me to be a star. I am so grateful that she knew, like, recognized right there. And when I was younger, she couldn't really like just tell me. Like, it was just like, I have a feeling, like, I'm just leaving. So it turned out that her feeling was right though. Like, came out later that like the auditions, like, stuff happened to like a few girls who went on the thing. It was a lot. So shout out to my mom. That's where I clearly get it from, all of my intuition. So I'm glad that she was smart enough to be like, you know what, like, she was not a stage mom at all. Like, she just supported whatever I wanted to do. So she would take me to these things, but she was always like, if you feel uncomfortable, we leave. If you don't want to do this anymore, we can go home. Like, she never pushed me to do anything. Like, it's just crazy looking back how upset I was about like missing out on these opportunities. And like, now you see, like, I didn't miss out on anything. I'm so happy that I was not a child star or had, you know, stage parents. They sheltered me, but like not too much, because I still had like freedom to do whatever I wanted. But they just made sure that that's why I feel like it starts at home. So many people are like, oh, it's what's being pushed in front of us. All this stuff has been around, and our parents knew it. Everybody's their generation knew it. They were just ignoring it and like putting it under the rug. That's the problem with a lot of these like child stars. Their parents like try to hide, you know, things from them, and then they throw them in these situations, like literally throw them to the wolves, and then still shelter them at the same time. Look at Jeanette McCurdy. Like, her mom was a helicopter parent, sheltering her, but also throwing her to the wolves and letting producers and people do whatever. Like, it's scary. And I like was resentful for so long before I really understood why so many things would fall through and why, like, I was literally being protected. And we don't always see it like that. Like, rejection is protection. I don't care how bad you wanted it, whatever, what, you are being protected. Like, just, you gotta accept it like that. And that's how I've been moving ever since. Like, who are you to close off Earth? For legal reasons, if any kids are watching, you're working out. Okay, so let's get into Quiet on Set. This series investigates the abuses experienced by children from the adults they were expected to trust. Viewer discretion is advised.
In the early 90s, Nickelodeon was kid everything.
Very few could have predicted his downfall.
It's crazy because wasn't this the year that Jeanette McCurdy asked for people to stand in solidarity with her and not go to this and not, you know, give him that award? And Ariana's up there, Drake is up there. Look at the whole, everybody, you know what? It's funny. That's why I don't like that everybody's acting like, oh, we didn't know what was going on. Yes, you did. You did not care. Now that it's being exposed, everybody wants to hop on the exposed train so that the heat gets off of them for what they knew. I'm not blaming the kids though. Like, it's not about what they knew, but everybody still wanted their career. So they were willing to sit there and watch their friend be called, or co-worker, whatever you want to call it, be called crazy and bitter and all of these things for years. Even when her book came out, there was not enough noise about that for me. Like, what?
What really made me feel the most uncomfortable were the leotards. It was just out there for everyone to look at, and, you know, I just felt very exposed. There's a new character for me on all that named Noseboy, which is just tights and underwear. They gave me a prosthetic nose, like an enlarged nose, and they put this same nose on the costume.
Captain Victos! What are your special powers?
Hey,
can't help but notice that.
Oh my God. This is one of those costumes that I have not seen. That's insane. How were they getting away with this?
It looks like and testicles on my shoulders.
And face.
This is a child playing this role, and he's playing it for other children. His audience is kids as young as 6.
Unbelievable.
And the joke in that sketch is effectively a shot joke. It's a shot joke for children.
I'm just looking back at it, it's just very strange. Frankly, it was just uncomfortable. Hey, this is what we gotta do to be on the show.
Do you know how many people bullied me in my comments, in my emails? Somebody commented on my Twitter today when I shared the video of Diddy on All That. If they don't show it here, I'll plug it in.
He's still sound asleep. You know, in situations like this, I always ask myself, what would P. Diddy do? Hey, let's ask him. Oh, okay. Can't wake up Shane.
You try symbols?
Yep.
What about sour milk?
Didn't work.
Tell you what, take this toy helicopter, put it down his pants.
Didn't work. He's still asleep.
Try this.
I was talking about that, and this dude comments and says, "You're a p***o if you think there's something wrong with this." Me? I'm the problem right now. I'm a p***o for seeing that this scene is clearly subjective.
Some of the child actors felt like they could not push back, especially with Dan Schneider.
Because we knew being close to Dan could mean an extra level of success. It was important to be...
Just like with Diddy, I'm not, again, these are children, so there's no blaming happening here at all, no victim blaming. But this is that side of it that people often don't like to talk about. I stayed because I wanted this. I thought I could have this. You know, it's crazy. You think this is what you have to go through. They don't speak out because they want to be on his good side. They want to keep getting shows. They want to keep playing these different roles. That it's so sad.
To be on his good side, and he made it known who was on his good side.
And as you can see, the favorites are always the most messed up in adulthood.
One day, the producers called my house and said, Katrina's getting too fat. We already have a fat one. She can't be the fat one. That stuck with me. I still hear those words in my head to this day.
You can tell by her hair, her eyebrows now, like just the way she's carrying herself, that stuck with her, like that ate at her. Like it's really...
After that call, I went through puberty and I'm not little girlish anymore. So then that became an issue. After that, I'm sort of like edged out by a younger version of me.
Amanda.
Please welcome 10-year-old.
Laid over the table and did what I asked her to do. It was upsetting to watch. You don't want to be viewed as the person that can't take a joke.
It's not a joke, though.
Dan called me at home, and he asked me if I was conspiring against the company. He had found out that the Guild was now requiring him to pay for our separate salaries. He wanted to know if I was the one that made that happen. Because if I find out that you did, you're never going to work for Nickelodeon again, or for any Viacom project. I was terrified.
Hear that? For Nickelodeon or any Viacom project ever again, because he had that much pull. And this is what I'm saying, it's not just Nickelodeon that knew what he was doing, it was Viacom as a whole. And if we look under the Viacom umbrella, Viacom is MTV, CBS, Nickelodeon, Paramount, TV Land, Showtime, CBS News, VH1, Blockbuster, come on, BET, UPN, Comedy Central, all of that back then. The Noggin, bro, it would have, like, it literally, she would have been done. Like there was nowhere on TV for her to go and write. So this is what I'm saying, and it's, oh my gosh. And that's why these boycotts be so fake too, because you think you're boycotting one thing and then it's owned by a whole umbrella of the same other thing that you're boycotting. Please. This is huge. And this is what I'm saying, still right now, everybody's still talking about Dan, they're talking about Diddy, they're talking about, you know, these small names. But the bigger picture is that the people at the record labels knew what Diddy was doing. Their bosses knew what he was doing because it's all part of their thing. It, like, they keep calling him the Jeffrey Epstein. They are the Epsteins. Epstein was Epstein. Like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And you as the director, you gotta move tiptoey around him? Like, that's insane. Nobody around here had any pull. Nobody was gonna say anything to Dan.
He wasn't the happy guy making jokes anymore.
Dan yelled a lot. Dan was like a tornado. He'd come in and like, set would not feel the same when he would leave. Everybody was on their toes.
Because we were all afraid. That's why just me and Jenny are talking to you. Like, people are afraid of him.
Still, right now, to this day, scared of him. Why, if Dan Schneider is being canceled and has been, all of these claims have been out for years already. We see they've been trying to like suppress them, whatever, but for years, why would people still right now be scared of Dan if he doesn't still have the connections above that he had. And right now, you know, he clearly is his time. It's been talked about too much. I guess they're just trying to throw him to the wolves. But to protect the bigger predators, the ones that let him go on like this because they knew what was happening and they were down with it. They were at the same parties. This is sick.
And so then I hired a lawyer and started blowing whistles. Gender
In
discrimination.
response to producers' questions, Nickelodeon has stated it investigates all formal complaints as part of our commitment to fostering a safe and professional workplace. We have adopted numerous safeguards over the years to help ensure we are living up to our own high standard and the expectations of our audience. Yeah, okay. Episode 2, about your home life. They try to really like check your temperature, basically. Oh, how's everything at home, and like how involved the moms are. Then they go and talk to your parents to see how much they care, and then that's how they swoop in and they start messing with the kids.
On the drive home, Brandy was very excited. She said Jason wants to email. She would have a friend in the industry. I didn't see any harm in it.
How?
A couple months later, she was sitting at the computer. She had suddenly shut down the computer completely and got up and ran into her bedroom and slammed the bedroom door shut. She started to cry. It was a picture of him naked, masturbating, and he said he had sent it to her because he wanted her to see that he was thinking of her. I went
off. It was get them out of here. And that's Hollywood.
It ruined us.
And that's so messed up. Like, you go to bat for your child and you actually go out, because everybody's always like, why aren't these parents protecting the children? Then when you do protect your children, now the child is resentful because they feel like they missed out on something, and the whole time you were genuinely protecting them. It's like, it's so sad. It's like, I know this story all too well.
You can't get back.
I feel like everything happens for a reason. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be on set anymore.
I had no idea what I was saving my son from.
He was around.
I cannot make this up. Look, the eyes. Look at his eyes. And these are not Sam Packle eyes, but you can tell by his brows, his eyes, just his face. He has, oh my gosh.
Like, it was his job to basically walk the kids around the set, often outside of the presence of their parents.
It's Jason. Lisa and I would have Bible study on set, and Jason.
But what I cannot, I really cannot, that mother, I can't respect her not saying anything, because even if she didn't go to the cops, she could have told the other parents on set, oh, hey, Jason sent my daughter naked pictures of himself, so maybe you might want to watch your kids around him. Like, you know, it was something she could have did.
Jason would join us. He appeared to be this really nice, genuine person. I had people write notes to me like a yearbook, and
became friendly. And on one day in the spring or summer of 2000, when the girl was 9 years old, he told her not to tell her mother about the kisses.
He had also told this young girl, I can get you on other shows. So there was that promise of he's going to take her far in this business.
Ultimately, Jason was sentenced to 6 years.
Look at his eyes, the eyebrows,
on 2 felony counts and 1 misdemeanor involving 2 girls, one of whom was Brandy.
No longer.
Okay, we are going into the 3rd hour of this. I actually don't even have many words right now. This is crazy. It's so weird though that they're like, it was nobody on our shows, right? Like, they didn't know that it was about Drake, because I knew about this back in 2020. That's why I'm saying, like, I'm not understanding why people are acting like this is new information. And this is supposedly his first time ever saying this, because I knew it was Drake Bell. That's so weird. I'm feeling like this is like a Mandela effect thing, or like they're just trying to rewrite history. I don't know. It feels weird though. Episode 3.
In January 2004, Dan Schneider launches his next big show.
If you have a tween at home, you're probably familiar with the Nickelodeon show Drake and Josh.
Did they give him the show so that he would be quiet about what happened to him on set? Like, where was his parents?
I just released this single. It's #1 on the rock charts right now in Mexico.
A lot of Mexico, always with him.
But it was the lead up to this premiere of Drake and Josh that marked one of the darkest chapters in this story. Dialogue coach Brian Peck is arrested.
Certainly has all of the ingredients for a huge scandal, but it wasn't.
My name is Drake Bell, and I came here today to tell my story. I have never told my story publicly. I started acting when I was 5 years old.
And if you look at Drake's face, there's a split in his face. this side of his face looks more predatory. The other side is more calm. Like, that's like the child, like you can see the split of where he has been hurt and broken, and where he's also hurt other people. It's insane. And I do believe that a lot of people who go through this stuff, they end up having like inappropriate relationships, and not like they're purposely predatory though, you know? It's like, oh, well, I mean, I grew up in these inappropriate relationships. I had men doing this with me. I had women talking to me when I was young. So what's the difference between me talking to a girl who's in college? Like, you know, it's sad, but it's like these cycles that we keep letting get like swept under the rug. And even on Twitter, like when we call out like Drea for having a baby with this 21-year-old who's the same age as her son, they go to college. I don't know if they go to the same college, but they're both in the same grade, same age. Why are you having a baby with someone the same age as your son? We call it out. Oh, but he's grown. He knows what he wants. Everybody wants. So it's like, how do we really stop these things from happening when we have so many people who are ignorant because they've been hurt? So many dudes. I was 11 years old. I lost my virginity to someone, my babysitter. That's a problem.
When he was 12, an audition came up for the Amanda Show. Dan Schneider comes out and says, hey, come here, Drake. And he goes, Amanda wants you on this show. For the first season, it was great. Everything was really, really cool until we got to Nickelodeon on Sunset.
Brian Peck came in during the second season, met him the first day, and when we did a table read, he got along with everyone. Everyone got along with him. He'd been working in the industry for a very, very long time. He knew tons about the history of Hollywood, and that's what I loved.
He worked with Leonardo DiCaprio. He worked with this person, that person.
And has anybody checked on Leo? Like, I saw a few clips of Brian and Leonardo DiCaprio that looked really weird. And everybody's always talking about how he only likes a certain, like, you know, women until a certain age and then cuts it off and doesn't settle down and all these things. He's probably traumatized too if Brian was his mentor. And it's like, you can't just fully give people passes just because, you know, they were abused. But when hurt people. It's sick.
Well, he said, oh, well, you need to come to my house because that's where I give the lessons.
Absolutely not.
Everything seemed okay in the beginning, but I was always within eye distance of them.
And it was just really fun to go to Brian's house. He would have parties, parents, they were there. He just seemed like...
Yeah, a bunch of Hollywood memorabilia and all his memorabilia from his serial killer friend, right?
Brian and I became really close because we had a lot of the same interests, which, looking back, that was probably a little calculated.
I started seeing Brian start to just hang around Drake too much, and it didn't set well with me. Drake would be in the dressing room or something, and in would pop Brian. Just touch Drake, you know, do things that, wait a second, what are you doing? Drake can put that on himself. And the thing is, this is in front of people.
So if he's doing this openly in front of people, imagine what he's doing when they're alone, and they clearly keep letting these people have too much alone time with these children.
The latest, hottest, hunkiest teen idol there is.
Yeah, his muscles.
I saw this video of Brian Peck on Growing Pains with Leonardo DiCaprio, grabbing his shoulder, running across him, and going down his arm. That's the kind of behavior I saw him with my son. Same frickin' behavior. So I went to production and said, you know, I really am very uncomfortable with this guy, Brian Peck, always being around my son. And she goes, oh, well, I don't know if you knew it or not, but he's gay. Maybe you're just homophobic and you just, you know, you just don't understand that he's a touchy-feely guy.
I'm sorry, that's even worse. I'm telling you, I feel like he's being inappropriate with my son, and you're gonna say, I don't know if you know it or not, but he's gay. Maybe you're being homophobic. What sense does that even make?
Brian was still my friend, everything was fine. I didn't think anything of anything that was happening. In hindsight, I should have been able to see, but as a kid, you have no clue. But my dad saw it a mile away. We were working on a sketch for the Amanda Show. One of the writers of the Amanda Show had leaned over to Dan and said, hey, you know, Nickelodeon's looking for some sort of new buddy comedy. And he points to the monitor, he goes, there's your buddies right there.
No, that's the story they told you. Your dad went and made a report against him being too buddy-buddy with you, and to shut y'all up, they gave y'all the show. Oh my gosh. Oh, it was just magical. They came and said they're looking for a buddy sitcom, and I pointed at the monitors and, oh my gosh. Dan is a liar. And I'm sure that is what Dan told him. Like, I'm not doubting that, but that's not what happened. And I would bet my bottom dollar that that's not what happened. The father complained. They didn't need another scandal right now.
That's right when Brian had got his hooks in. He's the one that started telling Drake that I shouldn't be his manager. And I confronted Brian about that.
What have I been saying? And then when they really want to sink their teeth in you, they try to get rid of everyone who loves you, who cares about you. Your parents, your manager, they can't be no more.
He would come to my concerts, and that's when it started to get a little bit more extracurricular than normal. Like, Dan might have come to a concert if it was really close, but Brian would drive to San Diego.
And they're following Drake all through the Strawberry Festival.
It was just like my friends are coming to my shows.
It's not your friend, it's a grown man.
And then there was a birthday party for Drake. Brian wanted to have it at his house.
It was my 15th birthday. It just didn't seem like something that was that out of the ordinary.
Got his presents out of the car, and I saw these birthday cards from Brian's friends that were at the party, and they were really inappropriate.
And so my dad started making it very difficult for Brian to be around me. So he started to really drive a wedge between my dad and me. And my mom and my dad had a tumultuous relationship. They did not get along, and I think Brian saw that.
He played on it.
So Brian really started getting into my mom's mind. It was like an army against my dad.
And then I got a phone call from his mom saying, Drake doesn't want you to be his manager anymore.
Our relationship was just completely eviscerated.
But I did say to her, you never, ever leave Drake alone with Brian Peck, and you never let him be around him unsupervised, period, whatsoever. And Brian just absolutely tricked her.
He knew that I loved going to Disneyland. Say, hey, me and my friends are going to Disneyland. Would you like to come? And we'd go spend the whole day there and have a great time.
And we know Disneyland, people were talking about exposing Nickelodeon. Disney is equally as, oh my God, Disneyland is the hub for child trafficking. And
my mom didn't want to drive to LA, so Brian would come and pick me up for auditions. I would end up staying the night. He had pretty much worked his way into every aspect of my life. Everything changed with Brian one morning. I was sleeping on the couch where I would usually sleep. As I woke up and he was assaulting me. I was in complete shock and had no idea what to do or how to react. And I had no idea how to get out of the situation. I was 15 at this time.
And he groomed him, groomed his parents. Well, his dad was not having it.
It just became this secret that I had held on to. I had no way out. The abuse was extensive, and it got pretty brutal. I don't know how else to put it. It was not a one-time thing. It was not a, oops.
And he looks like Leo. That's crazy how much they favor. So he has a type. He has a type when it comes to these little boys. If you look at the pictures of Leonardo DiCaprio on that show that he was on and Drake, that's crazy. And it was wild as I saw a bunch of people coming out on Twitter talking about, oh, well, he wants to say something now. There are court documents from 2003. Everybody on the show was alerted that this happened. And you're going to say he's just want to speak out now? He spoke out then. They just left his name anonymous. He was a minor. Like, I'm so tired of people.
Everything outside of that is very blurry to me, which is a bummer because I experienced a lot of great things, but it was so overshadowed and ruined by what I was dealing with on the inside. And then I got a girlfriend, and I was basically spending all of my time at my girlfriend's house because I felt so safe there. And her mom took her about 6 seconds to catch on to what was going on. He started calling my girlfriend's house non-stop. My girlfriend's mom said, hey, Drake, can I talk to you in the kitchen for a second? She's like, what's going on? A 40-something-year-old man does not call my daughter's boyfriend like that.
Thank you, Mom.
She called my mom. She's like, I'm taking Drake to see our therapist tomorrow. It seems like he's in quite a bit of danger. I've never talked about this outside of therapy. And I just said, everything's normal. It's just, things are getting a little weird, but nothing's happened. But good thing we caught it when we did. He had the ability to basically go, well, you're never gonna work with this person, you're never gonna work with that person. It was me believing that I would never be able to do this ever again. I was doing what I loved to do, and so I just kept it inside. We ended up having to reshoot the pilot for Drake and Josh. Brian was trying to get me to convince Dan that he should be the dad on the show. I was like, you're not coming anywhere near this show. I just exploded, screamed into the phone everything that had been happening to me. The worst part was I had to make a phone call to Brian and get him to admit what he'd done. He just started a full-on confession. And then Brian got arrested for doing really, really horrendous things to me. These emotions that were going through me were relief and fear. I just hoped that nobody knew it was me. After Brian was arrested, Dan called and asked me, does this have anything to do with you?
Because y'all knew what he was doing.
I was close enough with Dan that I was like, yeah, man, like this is what he's been doing. And Dan just goes, you don't need to talk anymore about it. It's all I needed to hear. Are you okay? You know, do you need anything from me?
Dan knew.
Brian was spending so much time around me that it was pretty obvious.
I get a phone call from Drake. I go, what's up? I haven't heard from you for a while.
And I was like, oh, did you see they got him?
They arrested him for molestation. I go, you're kidding. I knew it.
And my dad just goes, I am so glad that he was not able to get his hands on you. And I just couldn't. So I just said, yeah, they got him. He's like, oh, I'm so glad. I knew he was going to do something to someone.
How did it make you feel when you finally found out?
Are you kidding? I'm not the same today.
Oh, so sad, man. It's one thing to like know it, like, you know, to know that this is like what happened, but like to really hear it, my heart hurts. It's such a nasty business industry, like just the world too. Like, bring the flood. We need a reset.
This happened. Did anyone at Nickelodeon reach out to you?
You know, I'm not really certain how many people knew who it was, but really the only person that I remember being there for me was Dan.
When Dan fed you to Brian.
I was hoping that the outcome would be he goes to jail and that he would never be able to work with kids again.
But no, Disney hired him.
Is that what happened?
No, that's not what happened at all.
Why was I told that this was a 3-part series? We are watching episodes 4 and 5. Here we go. October 2004, Brian Peck is sentenced in Van Nuys, California for child abuse. Drake Bell was a minor at the time of the abuse and therefore was known as John Doe. The majority of the court record was sealed.
I get to the courthouse. It was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever seen. His entire side of the courtroom was full.
Of course. Of course.
Full. There were definitely some recognizable faces on that side of the room. And my side was me, my mom, and my brother.
You didn't tell your dad?
Brian had been convicted, but getting all of this support from a lot of people in the industry, and yeah, I was pretty shocked. I looked at all of them and I just said, how dare you? Sitting in this courtroom and defending this person, and I will forever have the memory of the person you're defending violating me.
Brian pleads no contest to 2 charges of child abuse. The judge sentences him to 16 months in jail.
And it's like, these are details that we already know, but just hearing it is like, what do you mean 16 months? What do you mean? How does any judge hear that, read that, see, like, because it's rigged, clearly see everyone who's working together, like, it's crazy. Predators protect predators. Wasn't he on Drake and Josh? Like, are you serious? Yo, these stars, they are ops. Like, what are you talking about? That's like, did y'all see the whole thing with Ned's Declassified, School Survival Guide, their podcast? They was like basically on there laughing at like what happened to Drake Bell. And like, y'all was on your set talking about how many jobs Mose was given in between takes. Like, I don't understand how that's funny. Talking about, oh, that type of stuff didn't happen on our set. So the adults weren't touching y'all, but y'all was all running around touching each other as minors. Like, come on, be serious. Like, there was still inappropriate things happening on set. Nickelodeon as a whole, even if it's not Dan or Brian or whatever, but be serious. This is...
He writes, I've seen the effects this situation has had on Brian, and I know for a fact that he regrets any mistakes made.
Mistakes over and over for years. Mistakes.
The famous sitcom
Alan Thicke.
The X-Men producer Tom DeSanto. Ron Melendez.
Brian is a good man. Oh.
Ryder Strong wrote a letter of support for Brian.
Sean? Excuse me? Look at that. Oh my gosh. His eyes are dead. That's so weird. You see how things change, like when you like are able, like he looks so weird right here. That's not like the smile, everything. That's like one of them demon syndrome things, like morphing right there. Like, what is that? Do y'all see that? Like, don't, like, I'm not bugging out right now. Like, yo, no, that's actually scary. Do you see that? How you can go from being Sean from Boy Meets World to being that? Like, whatever that is. I'm writing this letter because I believe in Brian as a person, not just a friend. Feel free to contact me. Oh my gosh. Impossible for me to comprehend.
Will Friedle from Boy Meets
Did Brian ever work on Boy Meets World? Like, these are Disney kids. What? And then people say, oh, everything that was going on in Nickelodeon didn't have anything to do with Disney. Yeah, it does, clearly. And I know that he ended up going over to Disney because of Sweet Life, but this is a whole different era. Like, nothing like this would ever happen. I can only reiterate how devastated Brian is. These past events have forever changed him. If ever there is a man who deserves another chance, it is Brian Peck, the man that I have come to know and respect. Oh my gosh, this is really sick. Like, this is, and look at him. He's too high to function. Nickelodeon knew. Like, why do you think they get the jobs? Like, this is a free-for-all for them. And then you have Dan producing the shows and putting all of the sick things. He had all those scenes with those feet so that predators could sit in real time in front of anybody and watch these things and get off to it without anybody looking at them weird because, oh, we're all sitting here together watching the show. We're all laughing. We're all enjoying it. They're enjoying it in a different way because they're catching on to these things that are put in there for them. He had kids sending in videos of their feet. Like, you got all these suggestive jokes that are not jokes. None of it was ever funny. Just like these men who are pedophiles, when they can't reach actual child on the internet, they can't go to the find a group of secret messages where they can go look at those things on Telegram, and because they do that, they go and follow mommy bloggers and vloggers and YouTubers and TikTokers or whatever they're doing. Yeah, those little pages that you're making for your kids and they're modeling, they're doing that stuff. They are screenshotting those pictures and doing whatever they want with them. They'll take AI and remove the clothes, and now your kid is in, and like, it's so dangerous. This was 2005, and there were 0 protections in place for these children. 0. We're in 2024, and things like this are happening on a bigger scale because now we have all this technology. We have AI. We have kids with their own YouTube channels, with their own Instagrams, with TikToks. Too much access to the internet, access to places that have a DM feature. I've talked about it in my cuties video with the pageant girls. I've talked about it in What Are Our Kids Really Watching? I talked about it in the Olsen Twins video so many different times. This stuff is happening. It's been happening. And there's so many ways to prevent it. And people don't want to do these things. They don't care. Like, they literally do not care until it happens. Just like this was happening and everybody was ignoring it. Like, we're in different times, but it's the same thing. Your kids might not be on set. You might not be sending your kids to a Nickelodeon set to go be touched. So you're like, oh no, my kid is an actor on TikTok. My kid's an actor on Instagram. They make skits. And people are taking those skits and using your kid's voice, doing whatever they want with those videos. People are making their kids make cameo videos for grown men to tell them, happy birthday, thanks for being a fan of me. And they have little scripts that they want you to say on Cameo. Are you serious? What do you have an 8-year-old little girl sending a 45-year-old man a cameo for? Come on. And you think it's so much different than this because I'm not sending my kid there. I'm not giving anybody you're giving them access to your kid on a larger scale. Be serious.
Jason Michael Handy, Brian Peck, and then Izelle Channel.
Nickelodeon
These
Creep
are
Club.
3 predators.
Like, this isn't even new information to me, and I'm still just like shocked. Like, that this happened, like that this slipped through the cracks like this.
I don't think that you can blame
Yes, you can.
Schneider for hiring Brian Peck.
Yeah,
because
we can.
he was not a registered sex offender when he hired him.
Just because he wasn't registered doesn't mean he wasn't offending. Like, just because he didn't get convicted for it. What are we talking about? Dan knew exactly who Brian was. And Dan knew exactly who Brian was when he was calling Drake and, telling him, I'm here for you. And how do you think he knew? It wasn't out that Drake was the kid yet. But what did Dan do? Call Drake and say, was it you? Because he knew. He knew. Like, we're not doing this. The people who wrote the letters knew. The part where they said that everybody at the party went to Brian's room to go see his letters from John Wayne Gacy, and nobody batted an eye. They all just said, oh, let's read these letters. Let's see, he has a signed self-portrait from Pogo the Clown, the serial killer. 33, exactly 33 in the reports. Men and boys. And the adults at the party was just like, yeah, this is so cool to be showing kids. Yeah, wow, it's so cool that Brian has this in his house. Such a quirky guy. Like, he's just so silly, Brian. Be serious.
Drake very explicitly does not blame Dan for any of this.
Which is crazy. Are you okay? Like, look at that. I'm telling you that this is a way to clean up Drake's rep too, because of all the stuff in his past. Because even if the story was maybe exaggerated or they was trying to put some dirt on him, there's still a few things that don't add up about Drake's past. And again, hurt people. Drake was a victim. You know, he probably has that, you know, he missed out on a lot of his childhood. He does relate to people younger than him probably. I understand that. But also, there was just certain things that shouldn't have happened, and those lines get blurred. I think Dan has something on Drake, or made him, he's doing something. So many people are scared of Dan. This documentary is not putting enough on Dan. Everybody here is just like, well, Dan didn't actually do anything. Dan wasn't convicted. Dan didn't. Don't we see how long things can go on before someone is convicted? Brian wouldn't have been convicted if Drake didn't go tell his mom. If Fifi Dobbs, Drake's girlfriend at the time was Fifi Dobson. This is what I'm saying, a black queen. Or is she mixed? I don't know if her mom is black or white. But listen, the fact that Fifi Dobson was Drake's girlfriend at the time, allegedly. They were dating at the time though, but if it wasn't her mom, correct me, but word on the street, it was Fifi Dobson's mom who made the call to Drake's mom to get him help about Brian and all that stuff, because she was calling her house over and over and over. So, yeah, let's talk about it. So, if it wasn't for that, Brian could still be out here offending. Like, don't let that go over your head. So, now that he's convicted, Dan didn't hire him when he was a convicted sex offender. He wouldn't have been a convicted sex offender if it wasn't for that woman. It probably would have still been going. Drake would probably be so much more messed up. And then it's crazy. I still don't understand how his mother, first of all, how they hide that from his father and went to trial and all that stuff, whatever. His mother let him go on to film Drake and Josh. Spend more time with Dan. Like this is what I don't understand.
But it's clear that the system.
And look at Jamie Lynn. Are we going to talk about Jamie Lynn? If I get to episode 5 and we have not even touched on him and Jamie Lynn, this documentary can go straight to hell.
Needs to look at if it is doing enough to protect children.
Ew. It took how many years though?
For Dan to be ousted from Nickelodeon is a huge shock.
Since several Schneider's Bakery projects are wrapping up, both sides agreed that this is the natural time for Nickelodeon and Schneider's Bakery to pursue other opportunities and projects. I think this was the article that I actually read that made me start looking into Nickelodeon. It's like from 2018 to 2019, I was just like looking at these things, but not really ever thinking about like talking about it on my channel, because I was still kind of like music, doing like Fashion Nova hauls, like funny videos, like that type of content. So I wasn't ever thinking about talking about this, but I was looking into it like on the side. Like I've always been into, you know, what's happening in media and in the industry, on the internet in general, especially because that was the industry that I thought I wanted to be in, you know? I was looking into this stuff and it was crazy because I was like, more people should be talking about this. Like, it's so insane. And as the like months started going on, we went into lockdown. I was like, what is the point? You know, what is the point? Like, nobody's talking about this stuff. I'm not seeing, like, there were a few people talking about it. You know, I'm not going to say, like I said, I wasn't the first person to ever make a video or talk about it, but it was eating at me for so long that I was like, no, I have to talk about this. And at the end of 2019, I recorded my video, and I think I had to re-edit it like 4 times, and I ended up putting it up in like January 2020. Still, people weren't talking about it until now. So look at that. Like, this has been out for years, and like there have been articles and people talking about things, and it took for Jeanette McCurdy's book It took for Drake Bell to come out and say, this happened to me. It took for a documentary to come out. Like, what does it take to really protect the children? Because even when you have proof like this and there's things in your face, people still will not give up the clout for the protection of the children. Dan Schneider stated that this is not an accurate description of why he and Nickelodeon parted ways. However, he stated that today, I would absolutely do some things differently. I've learned a lot over the years about how to be a better boss. Please, why were those kids sitting on your lap? Why did they say that you are the father of Jamie Lynn Spears' child? I'm getting annoyed.
To hear that he was gone was a good thing. They should have fired him a long time ago.
We're celebrating now, but this should have been happening.
Let's please collectively not let another Dan happen. Like, this is not a joke.
Are we sure? Maybe I'm mistaken because I haven't fully heard Alexa's full story, but did more happen to her like on set? Like just aside from like bullying? Because it's just, she just looks so hurt. I would love to talk to her. Like, these shows, these people, they just don't care about who they hurt, who they knock down. Like, not even just shows, just the business in general. No, let's talk about her. Because what was her purpose? She said nothing. She didn't say anything about anybody. All she did was show how jealous of Amanda she was because she wanted her Katrina Johnson show or whatever that was. Girl, you literally got saved. You dodged a bullet unless you didn't. It's kind of given like I endured all of this stuff with Dan and got nothing out of it because Amanda took it. Or, sorry that happened to her. It didn't happen to me, but I was supposed to have the show. And I don't care that she went through all of that because it was my, like, you know, like, I don't know, but it's just like this competition, like, thing there. And it's very weird to me. Like, there's kids that were abused on set. Be happy you didn't get your own show. But then, unless, like, the whole Drake Bell thing, you see what happened to Drake happened, and then he gets Drake and Josh. Maybe she was going through some stuff, and that's why she was promised her show. And then all of a sudden, well, I like Amanda better than you. Well, why did I have to go through all of this stuff? So, well, I don't know. Either way, it's very sad. I just had to speak about that because it's just like, I don't know, her attitude about this whole thing. Like, what were you talking about? Even right now, like, she kind of looked like Phoebe from Friends.
World that they grew up in. Towards the end of season 2 of Zoe 101, I wasn't happy. I actually could not show up to set anymore without crying. Me as a person was like altered for life.
Being let go from the Amanda show really broke my confidence. Big time. It sent me down a really dark path. I had to really like pick myself back up and keep it moving in an industry that showed me very early on that it has no love for me at all.
I'm done. Last night, the Quiet on Set producers or the team had a huge discussion. Everybody was gonna, I guess, come together to talk about the documentary. Do you think they invited me? Do you think that they even thought about inviting me to this type of discussion? And let me tell you what my problem is with this industry. Quiet on Set, they did the same thing that the industry always does. They get what they want from you, and then they're done. Never did they think that I would want to be at a discussion like that or a part of a discussion like that. Like, really? This has actually been a very, very difficult thing for me to face. This is what has happened in my career over and over again. This industry has done nothing but hurt me left and right from since I was a child, okay? It is what it is. And I'm tired. I'm tired of the people in this industry. I don't care for an audition. I don't care to be on nobody's set. I don't care for nobody to recognize me for the work that I've done quiet on set. First of all, you don't even tell me what type of documentary that I'm going to be a part of. You never question whether or not this is going to be triggering for me. Okay? That's number one. Number two, it comes out and you tell me, oh, you're going to be in episodes number 1 and number 4. And then you call me the day that the 5th episode is about to come out and you say, hey, by the way, just to let you know, you're also in the 5th episode. But you forgot to say, oh, and we're also going to be having a panel discussion to talk about where you are today and how we can move forward. You want me to share my story, but you don't want to involve me in the actual narrative of change? No, I can't do it anymore. I've given it all I can. I don't have nothing else. The show, I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to get back to my family, my businesses. That's what I'm focused on, because this industry, y'all can have it.
Find their way into this position. That loophole in the law should be closed.
Most people actually financially reward these industries without knowing what's actually happening, behind the scenes. Unfortunately, it takes the people that witnessed it and experienced it to speak up to really change it.
And you see what she said? It takes the people who went through it, who experienced it, to really change it, because I wasn't on Nickelodeon. I can make as many videos as I want, and there will always be that group of people that say, you weren't there, you didn't see it, you don't know. And it's like, you know what, you're right. I only know as much as I do know about what I know from what I've been through, but it doesn't mean that it's any less true. But that's why it does take for the people who did experience it to say, this is what happened. Even if it's not a full story, because you don't owe anybody your story. Like, honestly, you don't owe anybody anything. But in situations like this, if you really want it to stop, if you really want to make a change, like this lady right here on the screen, she stayed quiet for all those years. She could have probably stopped something a long time ago if she would have just said what happened. Or even, like, without even putting her daughter out there, she could have just let other parents know, hey, watch out for Jason. But no, let me just take my daughter and run and just leave it.
When people ask me, am I going to put my kids into acting?
Absolutely not.
I literally have zero thought before my no.
It's such a...
You see how simple her answer was? Absolutely not. Drake is indoctrinated, and he still doesn't blame Dan for anything too, and that's an issue in itself. That shows you that he's still not fully in the right space to be giving advice about anything about this. And it's a hard answer for him. And even if you look at his YouTube channel, his home, if you look at him, he still has a very childlike aesthetic and spirit to him, aside from the side of him that's broken. Like I told you can see that split. You can see the child and you can see the predator. And it's hard. It's a hard balance after you've been through that much. He still has a bunch of Nickelodeon memorabilia all around his house, a bunch of cartoons. He wears cartoon shirts. He loves cartoons and that nostalgia. He's stuck in a nostalgia trap. So if you ask him, do you think it's a safe space? Because he's going to think about all the good times that he did have and all those times where he was so happy, because it's still a part of him that is stuck in that nostalgia trap of his childhood, even though it was a negative time. So he wants to try to erase all the bad times with the good times there, so that he doesn't have to say this was all bad, this was all worth nothing. So don't think, oh, well, Drake says this is hard to answer. Maybe, no. You see how no, I have zero thought. Zero. My child absolutely will not go through that as long as I have. Do you know? And then people think, oh, well, I can't stop my kids from doing it. Yes, you can while they're kids. You absolutely can. That's your job, to step in and make sure they don't make the wrong decisions or be put in. Stop with the whole, oh, well, I had to figure it out on my own. You are here to make sure they don't have to. I'm sorry that you got the shit end of the stick, but as a parent, you don't just decide, oh, well, I had to figure things out on my own so my kid can. No. Take what you had to go through and make sure that they never have to go through that. It doesn't build character to make your kids go through bullshit. It doesn't build character to tell other people, oh, well, not my business. I went through it, but maybe you... No.
There is so much in this industry that you have to be cautious of, but...
Kids drinking on set.
Would I want the good experiences that I've had ripped away from me?
Dan Schneider says everything that happened on the shows I ran was carefully scrutinized by dozens of involved adults. All stories, dialogues, costumes, and makeup were fully approved by network executives on two coasts. Didn't I say this? Standards and practices groups read and ultimately approved every script, and programming executives reviewed and approved all episodes. In addition, every day on set, there were always parents and caregivers and their friends watching us rehearse and film. Yeah. So that was episode 4. So I will be back with episode 5. BRB.